President Buhari restates commitment to Nigeria's unity, insists not only on sacrosanct but non-negotiable.
African Union 11th Extraordinary Summit to conclude discussions on reforms in line with Agenda 2063.
Be forthright in prosecution and trial of high-profile criminal crime suspects, experts task stakeholders in justice system.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on care for the elderly in Nigeria.
All right, Kingsley, our focus this morning is on care for the elderly in Nigeria, generally male or female. But then I know you've heard this cliche, going about that men feel that they're more endangered, especially in old age.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's a story that has been going around, and we do hope that things will be taken care of going forward.
Well, the truth is that, a lot of times men have been regarded as a stronger sex who dominate and rule the world. They have power, unlimited resources to determine and direct the affairs in almost every area of their lives.
All right, but not only do men act that way when they are young and strong, but precisely when they are active. But of course, the day comes and the time comes when old age sets in and they become weak and therefore vulnerable.
Well, I understand where you're heading to, Kingsley, but, old people, especially men, are often seen to be, lonely amongst their family members. Attention is paid to the old, or let's say the older women. Let's say, children tend to take care of their moms more than their dads. Some people have argued that.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's part of what is going on. I'm sure you must have seen some messages circulating on the social media by accident, by the way, because the messages have been circulating more amongst the male folk with regard to what happens when they get advanced in age and their spouse also gets advanced in age, that the children of the marriage oftentimes tend to have preferential treatment for their mothers rather than for their fathers.
Well, we've seen instances too, where, moms had to go and care for their grandchildren, and when they do that, the men are left alone, for that period of time.
Well, that's the so-called omugo. Part of what happens, it's in vogue now. Not necessarily because they are in old age, but because when they advance in age, they need to go and take care of the newborn grandchildren. But beyond that, you also have a situation where the children would invite their mom over. And then, of course, leave your dad to be alone. And sometimes this could be for prolonged periods of time. And it's generating quite some debate, obviously, as to how the men would respond. That is to say that there seems to be emotional neglect of the father when he advances in age, while there is, once again, preferential treatment for the mom.
So, well, the question, this morning is, why do parents, children actually give more preferential treatment to their mothers, as against their fathers? And of course, how did we get to this kind of practice here in Nigeria? But generally, we're looking at caring for the elderly in Nigeria. That's a huge, huge challenge, Kingsley.
No doubt about that, no doubt about that. And precisely part of what we are saying is you find it more exacerbated with Nigerians who are in diaspora, where, of course, they will, some of them who can afford it will invite their parents over. In this case, mostly the mom, and she stays there for several months. When she comes back, her skin is glowing. In the meantime, the dad is at home, and that's the issue. So how does the dad survive? And of course, by the way, there's a real life story. A lady has confessed that her mom has a spare key to her house. But in the meantime, that if the father were to come around, and this is not on account of any antagonistic relationship they had when she was young, but any time the dad makes the mistake of coming to her house without notice, that she takes him to the nearest bus station and then sends him back home. In the meantime, the mom has a spare key to the house. So how do you deal with that?
All right, Kingsley, these are some of the issues we'll be looking at this morning and that's our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, caring for the elderly. And there are a lot of challenges, especially in this part of the world. A lot of people tend to, you know, not care for their parents, and we have very few old people's home here in Nigeria. It's not something that is part of our culture.
That's true.
But then you still have elderly people who are neglected.
That's no doubt about that. But, you know, the perspective, as you have indicated, has to do with what appears now to be the discrimination in favor of mothers versus men. You might as well say it's the battle of the sexes.
All right, I'm Rhoda, and I'm welcoming you to the last edition for this week. We're live on Africa's largest television network, the NTA, and it is Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. I joined Rhoda, my colleague, and also welcoming you to the program, in the course of which we'll have our regular companion segments. And this will include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and others. In the meantime, let's join our colleague to take the highlights of the morning news, and here's Musbah Dan Wahab. Good morning, Musbah.
Good morning, Kingsley. Welcome to the news. The political and security situation in Guinea-Bissau ahead of elections in the West African nation took center stage as President Muhammadu Buhari played host to President Jose Mario Vaz.
La situation de Guinea-Bissau.
Guinea-Bissau was scheduled to hold elections on the 18th of November, but we came to the conclusion that it won't be possible. Nigeria has been a great supporter of the process in Guinea-Bissau, the voter registration process going on. That's the reason why I came to see my older brother, so that I can seek his advice and brief him about the situation.
African leaders are expected to conclude discussions on the reform of the continental body and its organs in Ethiopia, so as to enable it achieve peace, development and transformation as envisaged by Agenda 2063. And back home, President Muhammadu Buhari is reassuring Nigerians of the irrevocable commitment of his administration towards achieving the cause of national unity and prosperity. Speaking at the formal launch and unveiling of the Buhari Unity Band, the president maintains that Nigeria's unity is not only sacrosanct but non-negotiable.
Patriots who have in the past sacrificed so much, some even their lives, in defense of our nation. I want to commend the good governance ambassadors of Nigeria who initiated this project for their sense of patriotism and commitment. Let me assure you that the government remains committed to advancing the cause of national unity and progress.
Nigeria elder statesmen have once again stressed the importance of sustainable peace and harmonious coexistence for national development and economic growth. This was at a one-day public lecture and official launching of Nigeria 100 Years Historic Bonding and Legends Compendium.
We are all actors in the political environment today, and we are creating history, which will become part of the totality of our nation.
Let us sustain this diversity through dignity, through sincerity, through genuineness of purpose, and through the abiding trust in the guidance of the Almighty God.
In less than 100 days from now, this country is going into elections, so that we begin to talk to our people out there that peace is the way to go.
Experts in the nation's justice system have called for a forthright prosecution and trial of high-profile financial crime suspects. The call came in a workshop for heads of courts and other stakeholders in the evaluation of a fight against corruption.
Has made a mess of our judicial process, and it is in the enlightened interest of the judiciary and the entire legal profession to restore this confidence in the process.
Most of these delays are hinged on the defense.
The Nigerian Army says in the last 3 years it has made significant improvements in the renovation and reconstruction of its facilities. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tuku Bratey made this submission when he received members of the National Assembly Committee on Army.
As you go around, you will see the efforts with great difference in terms of facility development, upliftment of the standard of our barrack facilities. But still, there is still much to be done. The funding still remains a challenge, and we understand and we appreciate the role the National Assembly is doing.
We want to commend the Nigerian Army for keeping to its constitutional responsibility of protecting the territorial integrity of our country.
We also are meeting with various communities to hear from them their relationship with the army.
The Nigerian Air Force, through a task force of Operation Lafia Dole, has commenced Operation Green Sweep against Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, says the air interdiction operation targets selected Boko Haram terrorist locations within the fringes of Lake Chad and areas around the Alagano forest close to Sambisa in Borno State. This is with a view towards degrading the remnants of the terrorists, curtailing their actions and denying them bases from where they could launch attacks. Airstrikes by NAV aircraft at the launch of the operation, however, resulted in the destruction of several terrorists at Sharama on the Lake Chad green fringes. And that's the news this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. Will continue with Kingsley and Rhoda after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
Team huddle. But we lost. Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Akpotego Isakpo Beje. I'm from Delta Stick Company. At that 2005, the company was privatized. Those that were working, that were caught up with the privatization, were laid off. No arrangement for the payment of anything. they were denied their pension rights. So in 2005 through 2017, we have been struggling how we can be put back on pension. We staged a lot of demonstrations under the rain, under the sun. The government did not listen. The marginalization for the past 13 good years by successive administration, the sufferings we'll be going through, the loss of human dignity and no hope for livelihood from July 31st, 2018. The monthly pensions start coming to the pensioners. We also want to be very, very thankful to President Muhammadu Buhari. He's God sent.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils. Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three
you are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah?
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cooked.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
All right, you're welcome back, and if you've just joined us, it's still Good Morning Nigeria. Now let's update you in the world of business as commerce and industry correspondents urge federal government to secure more foreign direct investment to improve the economy. We'll get more details now from our business news correspondent, Comfort Amadou.
A warm welcome. Creation of enabling environment for ease of doing business and implementation of policies that will attract more foreign direct investment, key to boosting Nigerian's economy, where again the thrust of discourse as Commerce and Industry Correspondents Association of Nigeria, SECON, launched a compendium. Discussants at the event harped on the need for the federal government to pay special attention to rules and financial bottlenecks that are hindering the growth and development of micro, small and medium enterprises, as the subsector is key to the country's economic development.
And once this foreign direct investment is attracted, our feeble economy will become stronger. And what happens to a stronger economy, it translates into good and better living standard for the people.
President Muhammadu Buhari's fiscal strategy of zero export program, which is adequately addressing constraints of the export sector, was also acknowledged as a right step. There was also emphasis on the implementation of the strategy on non-oil exports to enable the country increase its foreign exchange reserve to $150 billion within the next 10 years.
After 25 years of existence, the federal government is reviewing NEPSA's mandate and repositioning it to become an economic and industrial development agency, which will move Nigeria to the next level of development.
The quantity of CCMC that was exported from Nigeria was in excess of 300,000 metric tons, 1 ton of sesame seed can cost as much as 400,000 naira.
Meanwhile, the African Export-Import Bank, on the sidelines of the African Investment Forum, launched a project preparation facility in Johannesburg, South Africa, to increase the availability of viable projects in Africa that are bankable to investors. Afrexim Bank President Professor Benedict Orama said the facility is to support export growth and diversification and assimilation of African commodities into global value chains, as well as increase volume and flow of tradable goods and services in Africa's trade corridors. Afrexim Bank set up the APPF with an initial seed capital investment of $15 million. And that report takes us to the closing figures of trades on the floor of the exchange. That's Business News. I'm Comfort Amadou. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Comfort, for the business package. Next for us now is a review of the stories in some of today's newspapers. Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atrebe, is with us on the studios for today's session. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Good morning. Good morning, Rhoda.
Good morning.
And good morning, Nigeria.
It's good to have you join us this morning.
All right. Okay, let's begin with the Nigerian pilot. The Nigerian pilot from top to bottom, we have a number of stories there. It says 2019, I'm willing to give the Niger Delta total control of oil revenue. That's according to article. Details on page 9. 4 family members die, others hospitalized after Amala meal. That's on page 6. Lead story says Nigeria's unity not negotiable. It's according to President Buhari with 3 riders. Launches Buhari unity band to kick off electioneering campaign. Says it's meant to keep Nigeria united towards 2019 elections. And expresses concern over growing threats to unity and build up to the elections. You can see the president there at the launch of the unity band at the Aso Villa yesterday. Below that is a headline, Nigeria to become world's biggest importer of rice by 2019, and that's attributed to the USDA, that's United States Department of Agriculture. Details on page 6. Below that, you have other headlines. Minimum wage, we are ready for showdown. NLC tells NGF, that's Governor's Forum. And Ganduje sues Daily Nigerian for 3 billion naira over dollar video scandal. We will not fail Nigerians in 2019, says INEC chairman. And ethno-religious differences, Sultan pleads with Nigerians to live in peace. Page 5.
All right, so now let's move over to the New Telegraph. On the New Telegraph, we'll start from the top, and that's on the minimum wage story that Kingsley just read. It says 30,000 naira minimum wage. NLC dares government to sack workers. With a right there, it says WABA, Nigerian Governors Forum, can't intimidate labor with blackmail. And below the nameplate now, it says Sultan, Nigerians must live in peace. That's a story that's trending on page 5. And reps accuse 12 shipping firms of diverting federal government $300 million. That's a story that's on page 3. A story that was trending yesterday. It says 24 varsity students held for cyber fraud, exotic cars recovered. That's on page 8. And the lead story for the New Telegraph this morning, it says PDP leaders behind my travail, says Oshomole. PDP leaders behind my travail, says Oshomole. With 2 riders there, says APC chair, accusation of corruption must stop. And Saraki, we're waiting to see what Buhari will do. That's the lead story. You can read more on it on the New Telegraph. It's on page 2. All right, Bayo, let's see. Let's begin with the labor story, and that's the issue of the minimum wage.
Yes, talking about labor and the Governors Forum, they have all exhausted their carrot. They are now using the stick. The first to wield the stick was the Governors Forum, that if they must implement 30,000, then they will have to sack. And Labour has responded by saying that sacking workers to pay 30,000, they are not, it's not a matter that is intimidating the Labour. And Labour says that all political officers should be wary of one fact, that they will give instructions to all workers to be ready to vote out any political office holder or party that is against the implementation of 30,000 minimum wage. You may be recalled that the Governors Forum has said that they will be constrained to sack workers if they have to pay 30,000. And that is the response that has come from Labour. But the interesting thing about this is that Labour is saying that the Governors Forum is not noted as a negotiating partner. The states of the Federation are the negotiating partners, and they were represented by 6 governors representing each of the geopolitical zones. And the concomitant parallel is that Labour comprises of NLC, TUC, and ULC. Yeah. Are they also negotiating as one entity or also as a forum of organized labor? But meanwhile, the other concerned strike is that of the Academic Staff Union yesterday that went into a meeting with the federal government delegation. Some papers are reporting a deadlock, but I think it's a misrepresentation of what happened. The president of ASU, Professor Oguyemi, says that the meeting was opened up on the issues were discussed, and they are likely going back today to discuss further on this. And the Minister of Labour, who was also there, has indicated that it's very hopeful that between now and next week, they will reach some form of agreement. So negotiations are still on, and it's not correct to say that the negotiations have deadlocked.
Bayo, you recall yesterday the issue of the ASU strike came up.
Yes.
Now you're talking about the negotiations. Of course, the papers reported yesterday that the negotiations were due to begin yesterday. Who are those that are negotiating? Do we have the details? I'm asking this question against the background of what you just discussed with regard to the new minimum wage. Now, the federal government are state governments that own universities also part of the negotiations? Or with the federal government and ASU and whoever else, after they finish negotiating, they will now impose whatever they have negotiated on state governments to use to run their state universities? Because state universities are also part of the ASU strike.
Yes.
Or our private universities, of course, also, nobody would dare to have a private university to come and negotiate with them. You remember we were discussing this point yesterday.
Well, so far, those that were at the opening meeting included the Minister of Labour. The Minister of Education is required to join them today, and representative of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities. Talks are ongoing, but the ASU is saying that Nigerian universities have been subjected to 20 years of what it called a recolonization in the supposed democracy. And however, Nigerian students and parents are already fed up with strikes. Yeah. Within 19 years, we had 4 years put together of strikes by Academic Staff Union over the same issue. So I think we need to get to a conclusion and put this behind us.
All right, Vi, let's quickly take a look at the Daily Trust very quickly. The Daily Trust, just behind, below the nameplate, it says Sultan tasks Nigerians in peaceful coexistence. Many governors ready to pay more than 30,000 naira, says NLC. And the lead story says 821 jostle for 29 Guba seats. And that's the number of candidates for the 2019 general elections for gubernatorial seats. A total of 821, and they're just going for 29 seats. That's a lot, Bayo.
Yes, 821 people are contesting to be governors, and that is in 29 states. And if you go by the data that the Daily Trust provided, Imo State has 68 gubernatorial contestants in that election. Sokoto, Akwa Ibom, Borno, each of them have 41 contestants. That means 41 political parties are fielding candidates. Zamfara, Ogun, and Enugu also has about 39. There are some states that just have 2 or 3, some just 2. Basically, the 2 front runners are contesting, and those are about 3 states. So it shows that there's going to be keen contest in the March 2nd gubernatorial election 2019. Yeah,
well, one of the presidential aspirants or candidates has already stepped down. That's Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, who was former governor of Ondo State, a member of the Zenith Labour Party. And the argument of the Zenith Labour Party is that there are too many presidential candidates out of 91 political parties, I think there are some 68 or 69 candidates that are vying to become president. So we'll see how things go. The elections are just about 3 months or so away.
Yes,
And,
but he has become a senatorial candidate. Somebody has stepped down for him to become a senatorial
that's
candidate.
That's right, but not for the presidential election. You still have some. They said there were just too many of them, for the presidential elections. But in Madagascar recently, they had their presidential election. 36 candidates. Okay, Daily Sun newspaper is next for us very quickly. Beside the nameplate, Zakzaki facing murder charges. That's according to El-Rufai, page 6. Lead story, bribery allegation. Oshomole threatens Sarake with court action. It has a rider, it's an empty boast. That's according to the Senate President. And below the photograph there, showing the President being decorated with the Rotary Polio Champion Award. I know how Boko Haram started. That's according to Atiku, former Vice President. NAF launches Operation Green Sweep to wipe out terrorists and neutralizes cause. One killed as Boko Haram burns down Borno village. And the other stories on minimum wage and ANEC were earlier taken. Bayo, those stories speak for themselves, I believe. The same thing with the title of the editorial.
Yeah, the concern is the story about the Boko Haram. It's becoming frequent now. This one you reported now happened just at a town, a village, Mamanti, which is about 7 kilometers from Maiduguri. Just about a couple of days ago, there was another attack at Bali village, which is also about 5 kilometers in the outskirts of Maiduguri. And if you go by the pattern of the attack, they come there, set the villages ablaze, just get foodstuffs and livestock and go away. So it shows desperation on the part of the insurgents. They are now hard pressed, and they come to attack for foodstuff. And so that is a positive indication for the Air Force particularly to be able to trace them. And from all instances, they are coming, straying away from still the same Sambisa forest.
Sambisa area. And you know that only recently the military command rejigged the Operation Lafia Dole. That's the personnel that are handling that, and we do hope that they will continue to record gains against the insurgents. Now to our editorial this morning is coming from the Punch newspaper, and it's at page 20. It says, too many deaths on our roads.
Deaths on the highway is the matter of concern that the editorial is working on, and the statistics are very gruel. It says between June and September, as many as 1,331 people had died on the highway between Lagos and Ogun. And between the month of June and September, 1,331 were killed on our highway. And it has broadened up. The National Bureau of Statistics says that we have a total of about 11.65 vehicles plying Nigerian highway, and about 20,000 are always involved in about crashes. And most of the causes of these crashes are not far-fetched. They are basically overspeeding, poor state of the vehicles themselves, the poor condition of the roads, and therefore the editorial is happening on state and federal government to make it a matter of priority, the construction and rehabilitation of the roads. They have also pressed on the Federal Road Safety Commission to be very strict with drivers, particularly as there are incidences of drivers being very careless, overspeeding, not obeying traffic rules, and particularly those of them that drive under the influence, and the influence of alcohol or some drugs. And these, they say, are factors that are a matter of concern. And you know, as they often said, we are in the ember months. It's a month for which road safety is always high alert on the highway. And we all need to stay alive at least to see the next year coming.
Okay, Bayo, thank you. Just one thing, before we thank Bayo and sign him off, what happened, whatever happened to the speed delimiter? Yeah. There was a lot of motion and movement with regard to that a couple of years ago. But not much has been heard about that.
Just last year, there was a deadline also.
There was a deadline last year.
Install.
It was meant for commercial vehicles.
Yes.
And there was an intervention by the National Assembly, particularly relating to the price and the costs. And that is how it has gone under. But I think the road safety is working on the guideline as provided from the intervention by the National Assembly.
All right, thank you very much, Bayo.
Thank you too.
Hopefully we'll see you again on Monday morning.
Monday, see you.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, a very, very important issue that affects us as Africans, as Nigerians. It's talking about caring for the elderly in our society. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Team huddle. But we lost. Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Who am I? I'm a caregiver, a slayer, a boss lady, a foodie. I am the chief quality inspector and chief organizer. And when I'm cooking with my Maggie Star, I become a kitchen grand master.
Every day, you choose to make the difference. That's why you choose Maggie Star, made from natural soya beans and the other carefully selected ingredients to help you cook the difference.
I am the chief enjoyment officer, and I'm the magnet that brings my family together. Need I say more? But best of all, I love what I do.
With Maggie, cook the difference.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Hold it! Me, I don't commit my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you going to yarn? What did the yarn say? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants is said, you know good. Me, I not do again Sam. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
All right, you're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, joining us in the studio to discuss our topic for this morning, we'd like to welcome Dr. Omokaro. She's chairperson of the Stakeholder Group on Aging Africa and also vice chair, Global Alliance for the Rights of Older Persons. Dr. Omokaro, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Dr. Ogugwa Osi Ogbu. She's a consultant geriatrician. Dr. Osi Ogbu, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We also have with us in the studios Mr. Akintayo Akinwumi, a marriage registrar. That's Abuja, at the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC. Akintayo Akinwumi, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. And from Ibadan, we are being joined from our network studios there. We're being joined by Professor Benjamin Ehigie. He's a professor of psychology at the University of Ibadan, but is currently on sabbatical at Covenant University, Ota, in Ogun State. Professor Ehigie, a pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's our pleasure to have you with us on the program. Let's get this vox pop. Our correspondent, of course, went around to solicit the views of Nigerians with regard to what appears to be the preferential treatment that children often would give their mothers versus their fathers when the parents advance in age, which is part of what we're discussing today on care for the elderly in our society.
We live in today, you know, in most homes, mothers have more time, care more, and give larger percentage of the family attention to, you know, all family members, children, and even fathers inclusive. So with that trend of, you know, family care in the family, is obvious that children will want to show preference to mothers than they show to, you know, fathers.
Both of them, we're going to treat them well, but there is some kind of connection to the mother. It's natural. From breastfeeding, you're already looking straight to your mother's eye while your father is away there out there working. So that natural affection is there. It's created by God, not by us.
Both parents, they are very important in the life of a child. But that of a mother is special case because you are with the child most of the time. So it's obvious that child are more close to the mother than the father.
Most times when you enter public vehicles, you see that elderly people are standing. I feel it's not correct. We should be able to give them priorities because they have passed through the vicissitudes of life. They have seen so much. Some of them may have children that are not even taking care of them. A little help and a little show of love that you do to them on the street will go a long way to calm their nerves and give them hope and assurance.
So parents first, right from the upbringing of their children, they're supposed to be closer to them. They're supposed to have more time for their children than their work first. So if you are closer to your child, when the child grows up, you will not go away from you. You will always consider you than anything.
All right, that was a vox pop on, of course, caring for the elderly and the preference being given to mothers over their fathers. Just as Kingsley indicated earlier, that's part of what we're talking about this morning. Earlier on, we've introduced our guest, but I'd like to begin with Dr. Omokaro. Dr. good morning and welcome to the program. All right, so I know that this is an area that you have been working on for quite some years now. It's an area that you're an advocate for, and that's caring for the elderly. You just just, listen to the people on the streets there talking about their preference. But first of all, let's begin with generally caring for the elderly in our society. What are the challenges? When people get old, it's supposed to be something beautiful like we see in other parts of the world. Today, still in Nigeria, old people's home is still a taboo. We still have people neglect their parents. Healthcare is still a challenge for them. So let's begin with that. Let's lay the foundation with that. What is it that we're not getting right in terms of caring for the elderly in our society?
Oh, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have this opportunity. First, I want to start by saying that older persons are not homogeneous, actually. You still have some older persons that are still full of vigor, and they're very healthy, and they're still engaging in the marketplace. But you also have older persons who have declining intrinsic ability, and those ones need care. And when we talk about care, we are not only talking about the face-to-face physical care, we are also talking about supportive and enabling environment. When it comes to care in Africa, generally, everybody looks to the family because that's the principal first point of contact. But of course, we know that because of globalization, urbanization, migration, children have relocated. And research has shown, my research actually really showed that most children still have that emotional connection. But the question is not, should children care? The question is, can children care? Do they have the ability to care to the extent that they can sustainably, in a very qualitative way, cover all the gaps? So yes, some families are trying, but let's not also forget that there are some older persons that don't have children. So that is where the government comes in. That is where you need to integrate the care of the family and the regulatory function of government, the infrastructure, the ability for government to put the institutional infrastructure in terms of the policy, in terms of programs, in terms of activities that can support family to care. So yes, children are there, but children, for instance, need to know that the primary health care center is near home, the first principal point of contact to the rural environment. Children need to know that we can train communal care workers to do home visits like they do in most places, where the distance between the village where those rural people are and to the city where you have the general hospitals and the tertiary hospitals, is quite much. Children need to know that, yes, there's a pool of funds they can contribute to provide health insurance. That is not every time they have to look for how to send money. It's not every time, even when they are broke, look for how to borrow money.
Is that available in Nigeria right now?
Yes, we have the NHIS, but does it provide for the older persons? Of course, we know that once you retire, that is cut, which is actually really strange. But we also know that they are trying to bring in the community-based care health insurance. But how does that work for the older person who really is still paying out of pocket, who really does not have that pool of funds to sustain the chronic situation that he's facing? So what we are saying here is that the family may be there, there are gaps in the family, but the government is there to provide this, infrastructure, the social insurance, the social protection, social pension for those ones who don't have, who are not pensionable. Even good pension administration for those ones, yes, who are liable, who have qualified for pensions. But what is the value of that pension when they are still paying out of the pocket? Right, so we have exposed the gaps.
Dr. Makaro, thank you very much. Let's bring in now the consultant geriatrician. That's a field of medicine that deals with persons who are advanced in years. Dr. Gugwa, we had you here a couple of weeks ago when we were discussing aspects relating to aging. Now, Dr. MM has raised issues relating to the structures for caring for the family, structures and institutions for caring for the family, together with what is obviously an ideal situation. But let's look realistically at what we have in Nigeria. We're not going to pretend to be discussing the African environment because we don't know what happens in North Africa, East Africa, elsewhere in Africa, Central or Southern Africa. So let's focus on Nigeria, what we know, and our cultural practices and our cultural habits. Do we have a system or systems by which there could be sufficient support for persons when they advance in age, particularly for parents, before we bring in the issue of the preferential treatment that children tend to have for their mothers versus their fathers?
Right, thank you. So it's multiple issues. One is the knowledge. How much do even older persons know about what their care should be about? How much do their carers, who are their children, know about what their issues are about? Then we come to capacity. For the health care facilities, how many people are trained or skilled to take care of older persons? So the field of geriatrics, or the care of older persons, is multidisciplinary. You need a physician who is trained, so that's the geriatrician. You need a pharmacist who's trained. You need a nurse who's trained, physiotherapist who's trained, social workers. So it's multidisciplinary. And where are we in Nigeria? For the geriatricians, we only have 7 practicing in the country.
7?
Yes. So that's how good.
You're saying 7 to...
7 to about 900,000. Sorry, 7 to about 10 million.
10
yes.
million.
So it's a ratio of, almost 1 to, I don't know, 1 million plus.
Are they spread across the country, or they're just in the...
So they are spread across the country. We have 3 in the southwest, none in the southeast, 2 up north, and 1 in south.
Why are you so few in number?
Why are we so few in number?
Yeah.
Multiple reasons. One is that we do not have any training center in the country. So it's a field, it's a subspecialty of medicine, and we haven't had any training in the country until 2 years ago, when the West African College of Physicians, which is one of the training bodies, approved a curriculum. My center now and the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital have been accredited to train. So that's the baby step we have taken, and we hope that subsequently we would be able to, get more people trained. So that's the reality. We do not have adequate capacity. Having said that, if you remember, Dr. Makara mentioned that older adults are heterogeneous. We still have very functional older adults. So you need the geriatric care, particularly for those who are not as functional. They have multi-complex issues. You need people who are skilled to be able to deal with them. For them to, have some, improvement in their functionality, have better quality of life, because that's the idea, that you add life into the years that they have left to live.
The aspect of my question with regard to the reality, our social reality, we talked about now the qualifications for those who are not able to take care of older persons. You are so few in number, happily the population of those experts will grow. But what do we know now about practices relating to care for the elderly? That's why I was asking about our objective condition. Yes.
And I did talk about knowledge, that the older persons themselves knowing what aging entails, their carers, children, wards, whoever it is that they live with, knowing what the care of older persons entail. We know that, I'll give you an instance. Mama is not seeing well, and everybody just says, oh, it's because she's old. But it could just be a cataract. We take the cataract out, and Mama can see. She's not hearing well. Oh, so many conditions in the older adults are attributed to aging. Aging is not a disease. It is a big risk factor for disease conditions, for disability, but in of itself is not a disease. So they have a right. So just like you take your 5-year-old to the doctors when something is going wrong, your 80-year-old also has a right to be to receive medical care when it looks like something is going. So we should not attribute every condition in older adults to aging, because there are conditions that we can treat, just like we do in younger people. They tend to have adverse drug reactions. They have multiple complex issues going on. So I did a study looking at my cohort at the National Hospital. Over 70% had 3 coexisting conditions, hypertension being number 1, diabetes, joint issues, osteoarthritis. Sure. So what does that mean? We're giving them several drugs to cover for these different conditions. So we go into the realm of polypharmacy, where they're taking 7 or more medications, and that puts them at risk of adverse drug reactions. In this age group, we need to look at dosing, the effect of giving certain doses of drugs. We need to look at even certain drugs that are more deleterious or dangerous in them compared to younger people. So there's a need for people to understand what aging is all about, need to understand the fact that as people age, the physiological changes in the body and are immense and put them at risk of adverse drug reactions, a lot of disease conditions and disability.
Okay.
Oh, that's a lot. All right, let's get the views of Dr. Akintayo Akinwumi, who's a marriage registrar at the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC. Dr. Akintayo Akinwumi, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's look at the issue of, you are a marriage counselor. Of course, as people age, sometimes some people tend to lose, their wives or husbands, or, children get to separate their parents. That is, have to take their moms away, their dads remain. Does this have an impact on their health, or does it have an impact on them psychologically?
Thank you very much. Seriously, caring of the aging or the elderly, I look at it, it's supposed to be a very special thing to do. But we look at it these days, we are not so keen into it. Before, we know how this thing goes. The community really care, respect the elderly. Then, within a community, if you have an aging either parent or an elder within the community, the respect accorded to such person is very special. But this day, as the doctor said, that we don't have that knowledge of caring anymore. We don't have that knowledge of caring.
Is it that we don't have the knowledge, or we have lost it?
We lost it. We lost it completely. So, what I'm saying is that, let's look at the young people these days. When you're married, you believe you don't have anything to do with your parent again. Yeah, it happened. Like now, somebody that been working for years, maybe he worked for 30 years in the service, suddenly he retired back home. There's some psychology trauma, emotional something that will be with him. But if we are not giving such person the need, it will look like people are not with him. So the understanding of care, there's not many people believe that when you say you want to care for the elderly, it's to bring money, bring food, no. That's a lot of things. Attached to the caring. You may bring a lot of things, but maybe there's something they stop the person. But because you're not you are not close to that person, you feel you have done a lot. They have a lot of needs. Seriously, they have a lot of need to look into.
Well, the Dr. M raised a very important issue, and that's the issue of urbanization. That children are no longer at home anymore. In Nigeria now, you have 6 children, and I tell you, take for example, for some of us, nobody's at home right now as we speak. Yeah. Everybody, we're in different parts of the country, and so that is also a factor that is affecting the fact that we cannot actually really reach out other than probably send money or send food stuff. Let's go to
I want us to go to Ibadan, where we earlier introduced Professor Benjamin Ehige. Professor Benjamin Ehige, you've listened to aspects of the conversation, obviously, touching on some of the issues that we are focused on this morning. From your perspective, what are the emotional and social needs of the elderly in general, and then we now place it in the context of married couples who are advanced in age?
Well, part of the emotional and social needs is as an individual gets older, most times it's as a result of retirement, they are set apart from where they had worked before. And this is, at times they suddenly leave their jobs, they suddenly leave their associations. Because of this, they are left alone, or they are now left with people that are a bit younger than themselves, or people whom they've not been interacting with. This tends to affect them in terms of their mental being or their general cognitive being. Then when we relate it to marriage, we discover that, well, from observations, and some studies have already shown also that men who are the husbands, they die earlier than their wives. Now, the few times they had to leave, the children tend to attach themselves more to the woman. Most times you see children, right from conception to birth, they are closer to their mothers than their fathers. You see that the social relationship would not necessarily be equal, would not be even between the father and the mother. Much social interactions exist with the woman, and in a way, this can psychologically elongate the life of the woman as opposed to the man. So there's always this challenge of lack of association as a result of withdrawal from jobs. The individual learns a new life to live. At times, an individual who has been in the town retires back to the village or to the home where he had not lived before, and it becomes difficult for he or she to associate with people that are now within the environment. The person looks like an alien. So these are some of the challenges that emanate in terms of social and psychological relationship with people.
With you at Ibadan Network Studios, at what point, for instance, can these needs become critical, and therefore, what is the help that the individual can offer himself before help comes from either family members or society at large, or the government, as Dr. M.M. was talking about, institutional mechanisms?
The help the individual can give himself or herself is that while somebody is still young, it is always necessary to establish social network with as many people as possible. Belonging to social groups, belonging to age group or peer groups, belonging to cooperative associations, belonging to other groups like religious associations. Some are even in some religious group, they don't associate with people. All these tend to tell later at old age. So an individual who would enjoy aging is an individual who had established some long-term relationship with people while he or she was younger. Most times we depend on the government and the governments. This might not really work well at all times. And I still believe, even at the places of work, there should be the need for enlightenment of people so that they will understand the aging process. Aging process will help people. With the knowledge of aging process, they will know what they will meet in later life. So this will make them to be psychologically prepared for the challenges they will meet. And when people have such knowledge, it helps them to be more psychologically balanced when they are now exposed to this period of aging. So people can help themselves, but they can only help themselves when they have the knowledge of challenges that might occur when they are now of that particular age category.
Thank you. I see Dr. Ogugu, you were nodding as Professor Ige was explaining and talking about how the individual, can help himself while young and while also taking advantage of that help with advancing age. Right. What is the purpose of or the point of your concurrence with him?
Right, so we say aging doesn't start from the age of 60. It starts from birth. So what you do during childhood, adolescent, would affect how you age. So being able to live a healthy life as a child, as a younger adult, will make you age better than the person who didn't. So that's particularly on the health side. But we also know that enjoying older age comes with how much network or connectivity you have. So being able to connect with other people. But studies have actually shown that it's not so much of you controlling the blood pressure or the diabetes, but the connectivity that an individual has translates to longevity. So yes, we definitely need to encourage that people maintain connections, meaningful connections, to actually have, because you're a stronger individual, you're a more emotionally balanced individual when you know that you have people who have your back. I have an issue, I have 4 or 5 people that I can call on, and they would have my back. That keeps you going, it keeps you looking forward to the next day, and that contributes to longevity and a better quality of life as you age.
I would like to add to that, that actually aging now, there's a shift in the concept of aging. Aging now is not so much about old age, chronological age. It's about intrinsic capacity. How much of your functional ability you are able to continue to engage in later life. And then that also goes into how much you are still contributing, how much you're still engaging in the marketplace, in the family, and how much you feel that perception that you're still valued and that you're still valuable. But we find in our society, especially in these days, ageism, those negative, those stereotypes, those prejudices, those discrimination about older persons, because we have a certain mindset that because you're retired, oh, you're now useless. Because you're retired, oh, you're now a burden. Because you're retired, you really don't have that spending capacity. So you find people look at you as a burden, and they seem to stay away from you. Whereas I still go back to institutional mechanism, and I still go back to integration with family and culture and tradition. Whereas where you find a situation where, yes, you can retire, but yes, your services are still needed. Experience core, your talents, your skills. You still have that position to mentor. You still have that position to give back even to your institution. And we find where institutions come and they value their older, their retired employees. You know that you can still plug in that network that you had grown all these years, 35 years you saved in a certain institution. And that institution just throws you out, sort of. So it's so comforting when you know that they still value the experience you had accumulated when you were there, and they are still tapping into it. So one of the things that keep people happy, keep people young, is the fact that they are not dependent and they are not vulnerable. Where you have dependency, you have vulnerability, you begin to have a need. Everybody say, oh, he's calling me, must be looking for money, or he's calling me, must be want to get up to go easy. Before you know, you deteriorate.
So that means that's something that, you know, as a young person, you need to start, you know, doing for yourself. Investing. That's the
healthy aging. So that is why now we speak more of healthy aging. For instance, we look at Nigeria. Do we have a national framework for how this population is aging? And we are growing the population. By 2050, we are going to be the 3rd largest population in the whole world. Now we are the 7th. We're going to be about 400 million.
Yeah,
so,
if the growth rate is not checked,
if it's not checked, yes, if it is
it's
not
an
checked.
issue we have discussed on Good Morning Nigeria, and experts have expressed considerable concern as to how our population is exploding. But Dr. MM, you raised some very important points, of course, along with the other guests. Again, let's return to the professor of psychology to speak to some of the aspects. Professor Hige at our Ibadan Network Studios, a number of points have come up with regard to how the individual can be of help to himself or to herself, so that, you know, going forward there are the prospects of healthy aging. Now, some persons argue that keeping the brain active, positively active, through knowledge acquisition and utilization, this is one area that the individual can actually take care of the challenges of chronological age, and therefore being relevant. What are your thoughts to this? What are the cognitive challenges that the individual can give to himself to build up that reservoir and then utilize that reservoir in advanced years?
When it comes to cognitive activities, it varies from an individual to another. Well, while one is still young, it's always essential for one to expand or enlarge his or her scope in terms of knowledge acquisition. Like we were saying the other time, the amount of knowledge an individual holds about the aging process will help in terms of adjustment. Now, as people get older, because they've been detached from normal work life, and they've been detached from social interaction, because those that they used to work with, they are no longer there. One other ways they can help themselves is engaging themselves in intellectual activities. That's why at times you see some people that are of old age, in terms of chronological age, they get themselves registered in one type of training or the other. Even some get some degree, additional degrees, doctorate degrees, even while at that old age. And when you discuss with them, they always say that it's not as if they needed that knowledge for any job, not as if they needed it to manage any business, but they just want to acquire that knowledge for self-enhancement. There's this self-grandiosity which an individual has when you enlarge your scope in terms of the knowledge you gain. So it is essential to, but some people are disadvantaged. Like I was saying the other time, we have individual differences. Some others might suffer impairment, what we call cognitive impairment, that leads to dementia. They are unable to recall, they are unable to remember, they have loss of memory. So such people, it might be challenging for them to engage in any intellectual or academic activities. But generally, it helps greatly for adjustment. In the course of acquiring more knowledge, you get to even interact with some people. You get to interact with some people younger than you. And the psychological theory of social interaction, by the time you are interacting with people younger than you, you might discover yourself now behaving younger than yourself. You look younger, you dress younger, you have the psychological or mental thought that looks younger than your age. And in fact, when people see you, they will even qualify you as looking younger. So it helps because you now discover another group which you can simply interact with and you enhance yourself psychologically.
When you are acting young, as Professor Ige said, that also means that you can dance to skelewu and
shaku shaku.
Shaku shaku. Shaku shaku. And then they say, I see young people doing this. I don't know what it means, but
you say you aging so fast, young people. That's the in thing.
Yes.
All right.
What does it mean?
It's a new trend. It's a new style of dance.
Oh, I see. Fine. Professor Ige, thanks a lot for the tip.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Ige. I'd like Dr. M.M. Omokari to speak to this issue. I know now that there's a lot of advocacy in terms of you see younger people now, being more health conscious. A lot of people are exercising. There's this, wave everywhere of eating healthy. But then my concern is what we see every day, that is, issues with people who are now pensionable. A lot of them have come down with 2, 3 or 4 diseases, just as the doctor has said, and they need a lot of care. We've had stories of people going for their pension, and at the venue there, they just faint, and that's how they'll die. Those are the kind of people that I am looking at now. People who didn't really care for themselves when they were younger, and now, are having one issue or the other. So my concern now is if they need a lot of care, knowing that they have some of these diseases, 2 or 3, they need a lot of attention, and the children are not there. Why do we find it difficult in this part of the world to take our elderly? Why is it that homes for the elderly is still a taboo? Because some of these homes for the elderly, they have the right people to care for them or give them all the attention that they need. I know there have been instances of abuses in such places, but then why is it that we find it difficult to still take our people there in this part of the world?
I'm very happy that we brought the discourse a bit down from the ones who are enlightened and they are in the urban centers, because we think even more often about the rural dwellers, about the pensioners, the cases that we see and we hear. You know that apart from healthy aging and apart from health, they're all interconnected, the issue of income security is a major issue, and it affects health. You discover that in Nigeria, we really don't have, and we think it's so expensive. Yeah, it is not. Because even countries like Mauritius, so many countries, look at Kenya has joined, South Africa has joined. They have universal.
Mauritius is not more than that.
But we are talking about 9 million older persons. We are not talking about covering the entire country. We are talking about, and it's not even covering all the older people. We are covering those ones that you can identify, you can verify that they are poor. Yes, I know that the National Insurance Program is covering everybody that is poor, but it can also be targeted at the really poor older persons because they are in that state that they really cannot engage. So you talked about care, and you talked about attitude, and you talked about cultural disposition to refusing institutional care. You know, as it is everything, it is when you understand a thing a bit more, that is when you are open to accepting it. When you have information about the use, the reason, the approach, and everything that goes on, that's why. But now we are gradually getting to that place because of urbanization that we mentioned, because of the relocation of care, and because of the fact that now, if you can afford, you find that paid care is better than locking that loved one in that closet and going to work. So you find that when we now have regulation, and you have this so-called older people's home, that we don't like that term. We in gerontology, geriatrics, we don't like the term because there are many options for care. You have the specialist care for people with dementia that the family cannot handle. Yet in these days, you find families locking up and feeling ashamed because of the stigma. People don't understand dementia. That is not witchcraft. They are still stoning them. And you find that people don't understand that because of the need for interconnectivity, for social interaction, that it's better for you to drop your parents off in that care center for the seniors. Thank God the president signed that bill now. National Senior Citizens Act. We have it now. It's just to build that capacity and implement it. It will help a lot to have that across. So in the day you go drop your father or drop your mother. After close of work you go, and he would have had the opportunity to interact, to play games, and to speak to his peers, to share knowledge.
Do we have such centers growing up in the country?
Some private people are setting them up, but I'm talking now, government has entered with a regulation. The president just signed that act. So it's to build capacity and institute.
You know why I'm asking this question? I mean, because you say that the concept of old people's home is not one that sits well with us. I'm wondering, I don't know how many old people's homes there are. In Lagos, I've been seeing one around Yaba for several decades now. I don't know whether there has been an addition to that one, which is near Queen's College in Yaba in Lagos. So if these centers are available where old people could be dropped off for certain hours of the day so they could interact with their kind as you find elsewhere, what are the parameters that we're looking at for the establishment of such centers, and what could possibly go wrong and therefore need to hedge against it?
Okay, first and foremost, we have to have the regulatory framework to standardize who mans such a home, to give certification to workers in that kind of home. They must be trained. They must really, really be trained. And then, apart from that, is to build capacity. She talked about capacity. It's not just you get up and then you go into such a home. You must be trained in handling situation, even in attitudinal change, in looking at older persons and not be biased against them. And then, of course, even the building itself. It's not just get up and then you give the contract, anybody goes and builds an upstairs and all that. The building itself has to follow a certain protocol that is going to be adaptable to older persons in whatever condition. With the ramps and, you know, it has to be purpose-built. It has to be follow the functions that it needs to. So the building in itself, the location, and of course the cultural context, the kind of national center or center that you're going to have in the north. Definitely is not going to be the type that you have in the south that can save both sexes. So cultural context comes in. So the purpose, the functionality, the design of the building comes in. The location of that building, because first you have to do your survey, have your baseline data to see how many old people are here, what is it saving, what kind of needs do they have, those ones. Then capacity building for the human resource. And then, of course, the monitoring and the evaluation. It is very, very important. So it's not just to go through building there. It's to know what it is going to save.
What is growing now, of course, are the creches, usually for the underage children. Yeah. So perhaps the time will come where we'll escalate it to the care for persons who are advanced in age. Let's bring in again Mr. Akintayo Akinwumi, just before we do that. Mr. Akintayo Akinwumi, of course, you are a marriage registrar. Usually when people are getting married, in general, they are young. And they have all kinds of hopes, they have all kinds of energies. If you engage in marriage, in counseling young couples, what do you get from them in terms of, for instance, how such couples will relate to their parents depending on the condition of their parents, whether they are advanced in years or whether any of them has any of these ailments that have been talked about, dementia, sometimes mistaken for witchcraft, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. There's a lot of problem in that aspect. A newly married couple, maybe initially, they may be doing well, caring for their parent. But when they get to some certain level, you see them drawing back. Yeah, because like newly married couple, the husband and the wife, then they prefer they have their own life for now. What they just have for the parent, it's just like, okay, let me just give you this. I know it's a situation where a couple is complaining that the mother called, everything is money, 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 that nothing else. If the mother called for that call, they will still picking the call. So the problem with the young people is that they, as they still say, they don't understand. Because before you come on, these are the people that brought you in. Without your parents, you can't be in this world. You need to be. There's no way you just be on your own without looking at them. Because when we are counseling the couple, really, we normally amal on that. Like some women, they'll say they don't want their husband to be, maybe when you want to give your mother something, I say, that one's too much. You give her those. This. But we let them understand, as a man, your mother-in-law is your mother. And as a woman, your mother-in-law is your mother. So you need to take care of them the way you can take care of your mother. So, but the situation, let's say in Nigeria now, is worsening. Before a man marriage, at time you go home frequently, mama, do things that I want to do. But later, when you get married, things change. Majority, some are doing well, but majority of the couple,
they don't go home.
Things change. So they now relax back. And they...
Until it is time for a mugo.
Yeah, or they will wait till maybe December or when they have ceremony. Yeah. They go there, bring a lot of things, do ceremony and go away. They don't know the trauma the person is going through. They have just to call, and some people they will just be happy laughing. But in them, that's a lot of problem. So that's the problem we are just facing in this new couple marrying. And another thing I want to highlight, this aging issue. I know before government and do some things. I remember when we were still started with this social worker with him. They organized elderly program. Social worker go to village, not even in the town, go to village. I remember there's a program I forget the village. You will see how these men and women out there jumping, dancing, laughing, associating with people. They are so happy, if not because of what to give them, but because you are with them there. They are comfortable and happy. So that's just the problem we are really facing with the young chap these days. Dr.
Obu, you were itching to speak to...
Right, so what I was going to talk about was the issue of the homes. So there are actually private initiatives in Lagos, in Abuja. One issue is A, people knowing that they exist. B, affordability. There are so many patients that we keep in the hospital in the acute care setting that really can do well in a rehab or a nursing home. But whenever you refer such people to these private setups, they really can't afford it. So affordability is major. And that's where, the government institutional framework comes in. Can we have this facilities provided and older adults can access them at, discounted rates. Coming also back to the issue of daycare centers. Yes, we really should have a number of senior citizen centers where they can go, even the functional ones who just want the interaction, the platform to engage. So they can go, like the babies go to the creche, And we can even be innovative with this. Have it integrated. The same premises where you have these children, the older adults can become volunteers, can become carers in those places. But whenever I talk about that, it goes back to our cultural belief of, oh, when you're so old, you must be, the only reason you haven't died is because you have some kind of witchcraft. And people might not actually want such older persons to be the ones caring for their young ones in a crash. So there's still a lot of mobilization that has to be done, advocacy for people to understand that aging is a good thing. If you're 90, it's not because you've now become a witch or a wizard. You've just been blessed to have had
all right,
longevity.
Dr. Ogugwa, thank you very much. Let's take some of the tweets that we have already sent in by our viewers. Candy Prince, that's the Twitter handle, tweets. And the only way a nation can cater for the elderly ones is by paying up their pension. Educated elderly persons always cater for one another, but that pension is what some would consider their, some persons who are not old yet would consider it their national cake to purloin.
Dele Menjabi tweet says, truth be told, we do neglect and do not care for our elderly in Nigeria, as it is done in some developed countries of the world. Stakeholders ought to initiate concrete plans on how to care for the elderly and make them useful in the society. And
this is from a handle DW_Nigeria. It says, who is actually an elder? What age group do we consider people to be elderly? There's so much poverty in the land, and almost everyone will want to be known as an elder to enjoy benefits, if there are.
This one says, can you ask your guests why caring for an elderly relative, especially in African societies, is usually a task that is reserved for families only?
That should be females only, I believe. I said, yeah, there's a generalization there. Take that again. It says, that's Dele Mejabi. It says, can you ask your guests why caring for an elderly relative, especially in African societies, is usually a task that is reserved for females only?
That's a good question.
Plus, also the tweet about who is an elder. What age group do we consider people to be elderly? Let's begin from the medical perspective first.
Right, so the United Nations has given us a ceiling of 60.
Of what?
60 years.
60?
Yes.
For the elderly.
And people don't want to hear that.
Dr. Bu, I like to pause you here.
Okay.
When we come back, these questions as Kingsley has raised, we'll look into them. Who's an elder? And of course, why is it that this is something that's usually reserved for female children? Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be back on these issues.
United States Open champion Naomi Osaka.
Nigeria looking much more promising in the second half. Rebel Musa!
Ability does the rest. Look at this. What a finish that is. It's time for sport. Good morning to you. My name is Godwin Enakana. It is Sports Update brought to you by Dabo Squeeze Pack.
Auntie, please, where is my toothpaste sachet? Whoa, it's heavy. It even has a cap. I love it. Auntie, thank you.
Manala, how far can your squeeze go?
It keeps going on and on and on. The new Double Herbal Squeezy Pack keeps going on and on and on. Just for 50 naira. Try them.
What is news in the ever-busy world of sport is up next. Welcome back. Yes, the Super Eagles are on the march again. This Saturday, we might just qualify for the Nations Cup. Remember, Nigeria has not been to the Nations Cup in the last 4 years. That means 2 consecutive editions we have not been there. Yes, sit back, relax, and enjoy how the South Africans came to Nigeria to defeat Nigeria by 2-0 in Uyo. It was unbelievable, but that is football. They say it's like biscuit. You cannot tell where it will crack. have since put that defeat behind us. The Super Eagles are leading the table right now. Like I said before, 1 point is what the Super Eagles will need in South Africa, and that will be at the Nations Cup. Even if we suffer defeat in South Africa, we have one more home game to play, and that's against the whipping boys of the group, the Seychelles. That game might be played in Oyo. It can be Asaba, it can be Abuja, it can be anywhere. But wherever that game is played in Nigeria, one thing is certain, all 3 points will be good enough for the Super Eagles of Nigeria to be at the Nations Cup in Cameroon. It is not all about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Our women are also playing football. They are in Ghana as I speak with you now, and it is for the African Women Championship. Yes, Nigeria, we are the defending champions when it comes to women football. 10 times this competition has had, and Nigeria, our women, wonderful women, have won it 8 times. We are going for the 9th victory in Ghana. Let's see how the Super Falcons of Nigeria touched down in Ghana and how they were welcomed.
Everybody waiting the airport, welcome to Ghana. Ghana welcomes everybody tonight. Lima wana bravo, celebrate the night. I say, what is the name of your boss? Way to take the video. I say, what is
Auntie, please, where is my toothpaste sachet? Whoa, it's heavy. It even has a cap. I love it. Auntie, thank you.
Manala, how far can your squeeze go?
It keeps going on and on and on. The new double herbal squeezy pack keeps going on and on and on. Just for 50 naira. Try it.
And that's how we end this edition of Sports Updates on Good Morning Nigeria. Remember, the show is brought to you ably by Double Squeezy Pack. We'll see you next week. My name is Godwin A. Nakena. God bless Nigeria.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria. Before we went on break, Dr. Gugwa Osiobo was explaining who an elder is. Let's return to her.
Right, so, I mean, we use that age ceiling of 60, 65. But really, historically, it all started with government wanting a certain age when they will stop paying full salary. Okay. So in the past, you know, it was 55 in the UK, for instance, for men and 50 for women, and then that inched up. And you can find that in some European countries now, they're actually saying, look, they want to increase that age of retirement to about 65 because they want more of their older persons now. As the population is aging, they want more people in the workforce. And I think it was in Russia recently where they were actually protesting that they didn't want that increment in age. So it's really about multiple factors.
It's an elder, a senior citizen from that age bracket.
Right, so in the US, once you are 54, you're a senior citizen. And what does that get you? You go to the movies, you get a discount. You get a discount on your airfare. You get a discount on bus tickets and so many things like that. You want to rent a car, you get a discount from that age group, 54. So if we had benefits really, one, can we give them some identification? Okay. So an older adult in Nigeria, once you're 60 and above, you have an ID card that can give you all of these benefits. Airlines know that, oh, you're...
Why are you looking at me? No, I'm sorry. I mean, let our viewers see this. Rhoda, why are you looking at me? I mean, Dr. Gugwa is saying that if you are a senior citizen, you can get an ID card. No, and Rhoda, you are looking at me. I should also be looking at you.
Maybe you need one. That would be one way to know exactly how many of those people we have, you know, citizens. Yeah. So you can plan.
That's right.
You know,
but then another issue that's being raised is, okay, so you have a family where you have, 5 children, you have 4 boys and a girl, or 3 boys and a girl, and when the parents are old, a lot of the responsibility is mainly for the daughters. Okay, it's your responsibility. Why is it that way? You find very few men taking their moms. You see the girls or the women taking their moms more than the men. Does this have any effect?
So I think most of it is cultural. That's one, and secondly, the women have more emotional tenacity.
Okay.
A lot of men, yes, they come out looking like they're strong on the outside, but on the inside, they really don't want to deal with the emotional issues. So when the mom or father has had a stroke, and father has become who he's really not, maybe he's in a coma, or even if he's not in a coma, he cannot speak, feeling really depressed. The men are not usually predisposed to really be around and be able to take in all that.
Yeah.
I think the women step in because, from a very young age, we have just been culturalized to sort of care. And the men have no. Having said that, though, I have seen families where it is really the boys. I have a family, this man is 95 years old, and his son is ever by his side. He's the one carrying him from hospital to hospital. So it also depends on how those boys have been cultured, even within the home. And this is the conversation I sometimes have with younger women. As you're bringing up your children, do not make the girls be the ones that always go to the kitchen while the boys playing video games. Everybody should be able to play a role in the home, regardless of your gender.
Oh, okay. There was a quote that was on your screen just now. It's been making the rounds on social media for some days now, and it says, "Old age could be very lonely and agonizing for men who did not plan for it." And so the issue has been that, okay, there's this neglect for men. But I'd like our professor who is in Ibadan to actually speak to this. Okay, when the show started, Kingsley was actually sharing with me an instance where you have a mother, whose daughter gives birth abroad, and then the daughter would go and, the mother would go and see the daughter and stay for quite a long time, and then, sometimes... from what you said, the mom would have a key to the daughter's house, but then when the dad says, "I'm coming," it's like...
No. Let me restate that so that you can ask your question. What I said was, there is an example in Nigeria of a lady who, not having any antagonistic relationship with the father while growing up, has developed the habit that the lady's mother has a spare key to her house. And in other words, she could come in at any time. But on the other hand, if the father were to leave his station and say, "Listen, I want to go and visit my daughter," he goes there, he gets there, and the daughter would arrange for the next available public transport to return him to where he was coming from. That's one. The other one you talked about has to do with the Omugwo phenomenon. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be old. The daughter gives birth or the son gives birth, depending on the arrangement they have as a couple, and then the mom takes off, to go and do Omugwo. We have seen that much more regularly now, whether in the rural urban centers or Nigeria abroad. And not just Omugwo, after a while, the children, if they are well off and they can afford it, we say, "Okay, Mama, we are sending you a ticket. Come." If one is on the East Coast, he will say, "Come." Another one in the Midwest, he will say, "Okay, come." Another one in the West Coast, he will say, "Come." If another one is in Sweden, he will say, "Come." When she comes back, her skin will be like a mirror that you can actually see yourself in it. Professor, hold on a second. It's not, Professor Ege, what does this do to the emotional stability of aging or couples who are advanced in age, when you're having this kind of preferential treatment at all times for the mom, who is able to go, she just packs her bag and then she goes and then Papa is at home?
The first challenge is that most times the man has this ego. The ego of not trying to reduce, in quotes, himself in the in-laws house or the in-laws family. The man will always want to behave as the man as one who is not dependent and as man that would not necessarily subject himself to undue attachment and so on. But when we study the history of the woman right from inception, in fact, if we go look at the Bible, when the woman was made for Adam, as God said, he said, "You be the helpmate." In other words, the woman somehow is biologically structured for that help, for assistance. And some studies with rats in physiological psychology have shown that the female rats, they tend to show or demonstrate inherent maternal care as opposed to the male rats. So in a way, the female sex, let me not use gender now, seem to be biologically and physiologically prepared for maternal care. And this also commences when a child is born. First, the child stays in the mother's womb for months. The child is born, the first contact person is not the father, but the mother. The child starts breastfeeding and so on. That attachment is further enhanced. And this leads to the desire of the woman to always cater for the child. You see, as the child grows up, this catering continues. The man, most times, might not be at home. When the child is healed, it's the mother that takes care of the child. When the child is to look for school, is of school age, is to commence school, most times it's the woman that is readily available. So this creates that social interaction and emotional association between the mother and the child, whether it's a male child or a girl child. It creates this association. So when they further grow up, they start giving birth, you see, it becomes easier for the woman to leave her matrimonial home and go wherever the child, whether male or even female, is. They can easily associate with them. They can easily change their location. But the undue effect is that the man is left alone. And in a way, for me, I believe it further reduces the longevity of the man, and it makes the man to die early. Because you see, most times, these women, they leave Nigeria, they go abroad. They stay with these children, scarcely will they come. And the man is now left with a house help and so on, which will not be as caring as the wife will be. So as the man is growing older, the time the man would actually depend on the wife to give him this emotional touch, emotional care, emotional relationship, the woman is not there to be found. But again, some men, they are also responsible. You discover that some men, they are less caring for their children. Some don't bother about the child. Their responsibility just to give birth. And after giving birth, that is all. The woman is most times always available. Like once somebody would always say that a woman, 100% you can say, is the parent of a child. But the father, less than 100% can you say. Why? Because the woman carries the child right from conception. But any man can impregnate a woman. It might not even be the father or the man that is at home. It could be another man. But for the woman, we are quite sure that the woman is the mother of the child. So this might go a long way explaining why this maternal care is always there. But I want to advise that mothers, women, wives should be more cautious of this. They should know that the husband is the man they married. Children came later. And as such, they should help to enhance the lifespan of the man so that their absence from home will not reduce their lifespan.
Well, Professor Igate, thank you very much. I mean, you raised the issue of longevity now so that men can live longer when women realize that they don't have to be gone for far too long in the course of a muguo or just a regular visit. But you talked about, you touched on one point which has to do with the male ego. That a man who is advanced in age will say, hey, listen, I don't have to reduce myself in the estimation of my in-laws. Why do I need to go and stay with them? But there are also instances where the father could say, okay, listen, I want to go and visit my children. And the children will say, you know, Papa, at this time we are very busy. You know, work schedule is tough and tough. But they will go behind and then whisper to the mom, say, Mama, maybe by telephone or otherwise, when do you want to come? So how do you deal with that?
Well, we have to look at first the genesis. Men who pass through such psychological circumstances most times are men who are the early stages of life. early stages of marriage, early stages of the family, did not relate freely with the children. This cannot just start suddenly. A father that has not been close, has not been attached to the child feels uncomfortable. If the father is around, the child might not discuss, the child might not say anything, but the woman, they can easily discuss. So if the man is now coming, they remember the torture they had received from the father. Psychologically and mentally, they feel that, oh, if this man is around, that feeling that his presence would somehow disorganize the home. So because of that, they refrain or restrict the man from coming. The man also has this responsibility of trying to establish close relationship with the children at the early stages of life, so that when they are old, that relationship and attachment and affect that has been established will continue. It cannot be something that will come up suddenly. The military approach, authoritarian approach of the man, for instance, will discourage any child from inviting or allowing the father to come when he desires. At this time, it's already late. The man is now seeking for relationship, for association, and so on from the children, which had not been. It will be very much difficult because the child will always remember the type of relationship that existed before.
Professor Ege, thanks a lot. I mean, Rhoda, I know that you have a point to make. You know, when we are discussing topics like this that touch the individual, I mean, you're either a man or you're a woman. And if you're a parent, I mean, you can see the way our guests are responding. But in terms of attachment that we're talking about, we also know the responsibility of the man. Professor Ege is saying that if you were not close, if you are so close, when will you have a time to go and look for school fees? Pay? If you are so close, when will you have a time to get a roof over your head?
We're saying that's not, Kinsey, we're saying that that's not enough, because what's happening now is a lot of parents try to want to build that relationship when they are older, and that's not going to happen automatically, doctor.
Yes.
But that's not going to happen automatically.
Dr.
That's the truth.
What is your
And so when you pay school fees, it means you have to attend inter-house sports. You have to
which
be
inter-house sport? You are in a different station. Dr. MM, respond to this. You are looking for school fees. You are looking for daily bread.
Something here.
You have to come for cultural day.
Which cultural day? When you leave your work, they will get a query.
Yeah. Let me say something here. This is really not to reduce the value of the father. And let's not generalize here. Different strokes for different folks. You have families that the fathers are so loved and the mothers are strangers. And coming back to why the vox pop that we had earlier, why children are more attached to the mothers. Some research, I did some research. And one of the reasons is what, like the professor referred to, is what is called residue of conflicts while in the trajectory of that family. You find situations where the father was agile, strong, making money. Situations of polygamy, maltreating of their mother before their eyes, bringing in other women in a monogamous relationship, and sometimes outrightly abandoning their mother. And then you find a situation where these children get emotionally very distraught and keep assuring their mothers that, look, I will take care of you.
All right.
That is one factor.
Dr. MM, just let's pause you briefly. We're taking this short break now to take a message, and then you continue.
Okay.
Aerial Assurance Challenge.
Oh, thank you. But what assurance can you give our daughter?
Everything. With the new look Aerial, I can even do the laundry.
Prove it then.
Okay. Let's make this stain even tougher. Now, let's wash the cloth with your detergent and with new look Aerial. Do you believe me now?
Aerial, now in a new look pack. These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service.
All right.
All right, Dr. M.M. Omokari, let's get your closing thoughts on this issue. How can we do it better? How can we care for our older parents as they age, especially right now, those who cannot even afford it, rural areas? Well, what can be done?
I think for my closing thought, I would say that number one, aging, like somebody said, is not an emergency. You don't just get up, suddenly you are old. It's a process, and we have to respect that process and to know how to handle ourselves to enable us maintain our intrinsic capacity towards later life. That helps you to continue to be independent and to engage. And then where the intrinsic capacity fails, it behoves on the institution, private institution, governments, everybody, all the stakeholders to come together and ensure an enabling and supportive environment. All right. Social protection, income security, and health facilities, access to health.
Thank you very much, Dr. M.M. Omokari. Akintayo Akiwumi, let's get your closing thoughts very quickly.
One of the advice that, as we are already saying, we need to prepare for the day. As Doctor says, it's a process. When you know you are still Eddie, you try to do something and to associate. And I still need to say it. We children, we still have something to do. Don't dump your parent, no matter what the problem. The blood is there. Relate with them. Thank you.
All right, so let's go to our Ibadan Network Center where we have Professor Ehige. Let's get your closing thoughts very briefly.
Closing remark as an educationist is that the aging process should be a subject that should be included in educational system, educational curriculum, right from primary school, secondary school, and even the university, so that people will know the psychological consequences of aging, the physiological and medical consequences. With that knowledge, they will know how to prepare themselves towards it and know how to help their aging parents when they are in need, so that they can give whatever assistance that will be needed. Thank you.
Very much, Professor Ige Benjamin Osawa. He is a psychologist of the Psychology Department of the University of Ibadan. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for joining us on the program today. All right, Dr. Ogugo C. Ogbo, let's get your thoughts. Closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts will be that we have a better attitude towards the older adults, that the older adults themselves also adopt an attitude of embracing their new normal state when they get older, because some just refuse to. So that maladjustment creates a crisis, and that's part of what gives them
all right, it's on that note,
a feeling of ill health.
Thank you very much. We're out of time. It's on that note, I want to thank all of our guests for joining us on the program this morning. And my closing thoughts will be that Kingsley, men should also, not just pay the school fees or provide a roof over our heads, but also, be there for the children, for, extracurricular activities when you are home. Also relate with your children, not just about looking for the money. And that's it on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you.
You're not going to have. You're not going to have the final word on this. I mean, that's not. It's not the matter of who is right or who is wrong. Yeah. We're talking about a symbiotic relationship, man and woman, husband and wife, parents and their offspring. What is the responsibility? Because the family is an institution. Yeah. What do you do when people are advanced in age? Do you separate them as a couple because you want to have preferential treatment for the mom, or otherwise? How will the man take care of himself? Now, Omugwo is reigning. Will he resort to Papugwo? But I don't know, Papugwo. Somebody will just wake up and say, look, since the man has been abandoned, arrange somebody else for him.
And then we're forgetting utility that women, when they come around, they're more useful.
I agree. If you have Papugwo, it will create all kinds of inheritance challenges in future. So let them take care of that. I'm sure that's... We hope you enjoyed the program this morning. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. I don't know how much time we have. We could just take the weather report. We understand that we're out of time. We apologize for the fact that we're unable to take our complimentary segments. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague, Rhoda, in appreciating your tuning in. The program is back tomorrow. Is back on Monday, not tomorrow. So that aging is not setting in yet. It's far from it.
I said so earlier. So maybe you need an ID card. Thank you for watching. That's how it's been on Good Morning Nigeria today. Have a great weekend.